Welcome to Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio, coverage of the National Conference on Philanthropic Planning. We're on the Riverwalk in San Antonio, Texas, and my guest right now is Mindy Aleman. She is Executive Director of the Center for Gift and Estate Planning at Kent State University in Kent, Ohio. She is a CFRE and an APR. I'm going to ask her what those mean very shortly. Mindy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tony. Nice to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. CFRE, I know, is Certified Fundraising Executive.
That's right.
But what is the APR after your name designation?
I'm also accredited in public relations by the National Public Relations Society.
Okay. And do you feel you use your public relations credential in your gift planning work?
All the time.
I think so, yeah?
Absolutely.
How is that? Tell me.
You're building a story, you're building a case for your institution, you're crafting the proper message, and you're thinking about the audience. And that's all about public relations as well as planned giving.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. Mindy, your topic is harness phone center power to increase planned gifts. Now, I don't think that most of our audience, and the audience is small and mid-sized nonprofits, think of their phone center as a place to prospect for planned giving donors. So why are you recommending that?
Well, Tony, it's really a gold mine for future planned gifts and for bequests that are undocumented. They're unbeknownst to the organization and for many reasons may not be known until after the donor passes away.
Okay. And we can uncover these gifts through our phone work.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Most of the time, and we use students in our phone center, but
All right.
any well-trained, personable, rapport-building phone center caller can do that. But
okay, well, that's kind of a mouthful now. So that sounds like, do you stay away from or recommend against, I guess, the hired telephone telesolicitors for annual fund?
I don't recommend against it. I think it takes a little bit different training. The reason student callers or callers who are involved in the organization's mission are very efficient and effective is because they bring a sense of doing it now to their phone conversation. And particularly with universities, a student is best at developing a nice rapport with an alumnus who may have gotten a degree in business and the student is majoring in business and can say, gee, do you have any advice for me? I'm having a tough time with the international business ethics class.
Okay, so they can develop that rapport that a professional consultant solicitor is not gonna do.
It's a unique relationship between the student and the donor on the other end of the line that if your phone center is very successful getting gifts, it's because they're developing rapport. That same rapport is very successful and integral in terms of identifying those who might also put your institution in their will.
All right, and we are going to get to those details. Let's set the stage at Kent State. Now, as Executive Director of the Center for Gift and Estate Planning, you probably don't oversee the annual fund telemarketing function, right? You're working with another office in this.
Right.
Okay. You have a good working relationship, I guess.
Absolutely. And this truly is a nice example of a collaborative effort and buy-in between the planned giving area and the annual fund program.
How did you discover the potential in the annual fund telemarketing work for your gift planning work?
Well, we had been very successful at our annual fund. We were raising a lot of money, and the annual fund was breaking all kinds of records. So we knew at the time that we had a very great program in place. During the same time, we had a screening, and the screening had uncovered about 27,000 prospects who had a high proclivity for making a planned gift to our organization.
This was a screening by an outside company, one of the wealth screening companies?
Yes, and I can mention the company if you
can, if you like, sure.
Yeah, it's Blackbaud, and they did a wonderful job for us.
Sure.
And the dilemma that we found ourselves in was, well, how the heck are we going to get to talk to 27,000 likely plan giving prospects?
How many people are in the Center for Gift and Estate Planning at the university?
Well, there's only a couple of us plus our administrative support.
Okay.
However, we have another 15 to 20 full-time gift officers representing different constituencies. However, they are mostly major gift officers. So we had what we call in this area lack of legs.
Okay, 27,000 people. What did you decide to do?
Well, we thought maybe we could piggyback onto the successes of our phone center, who were talking to thousands of alumni every week. And maybe we could take the best of those callers, give them a specific pool comprised of the ones with the highest Blackbaud ratings in the plan giving area, and ask them to discuss whether the donor ever had any intention or thought of remembering their alma mater in their estate plan.
Your colleague who oversees the annual fund wasn't concerned that this would muddy the message and that the annual fund solicitation might get lost and therefore the annual fund income suffer?
Well, no, because we decided up front that this PG ask, as we called it,
PG ask?
A PG ask.
Plan giving ask.
Actually, it was really mostly a plan giving conversation segue.
Right.
But that would only occur, number one, if they were in the plan giving phone calling pool, number one. And number two, if the person called had made a gift or a pledge. So it didn't interfere at all. It came afterwards.
Okay, and had made a gift or a pledge in that call.
That's correct.
Okay, and what do you call this program at Kent State?
We call it Request a Bequest.
All right, but you're not really soliciting a bequest. You're asking if there's an interest in it. Is that right?
Yes, but that's where it all starts, and it's a nice segue if somebody has been donating for years and they're in the right demographics for plan giving. It's very natural and easy for the student caller to say, Mr. Jones, you've been so wonderful all these years, and I certainly appreciate your gift tonight to the School of Music. Have you ever considered including us in your estate plan?
All right. And what was the initial response to that? How many years have you been doing this? Request a bequest.
This has been going on since 2005, so
Okay.
it's in its 6.5 years, I guess.
All right. I guess, well, and clearly the answer is the initial reaction was not negative, and I guess positive, so you continued for several years after.
It's been wonderful, Tony. It really has. Not only have we identified hundreds of people who would consider a bequest, but we've also uncovered many people with bequests or other plan gifts already in their estate plan. And the most fabulous part of all of this is that many of these donors were not on our radar screen.
Well, they were in the 27,000 because,
yes.
But they were not on your planned gift prospect radar screen. Is that right?
Right, and they were. Yes, they were unbeknownst to us in terms of whether they would really do something or not. So it really pushed the meter in terms of identifying really good plan giving prospects. And as we all know in the world of plan giving, many current gifts can come from plan giving donors as well.
So is the language that the students are using, is that what you gave us earlier? Would you consider, or have you ever considered including?
Sure.
Okay.
And there are other options as well. Let's say there was somebody that said, well, I can only make a small gift this year, Tony, to the Department of Physics. I wish I could do more, but I can only give you a small gift. The caller then was empowered and trained to say, well, I hear your passion in your voice. Maybe you could just put us in your will. And you would be surprised and pleased, I would think, to find out that many people said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do that.
That's really something. You've uncovered something really very, very interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been great.
Now, your program description says that this is an award-winning program, Request a Bequest. What award or awards have you won?
This particular program has been the recipient of 4 different case awards, 3 golds in terms of best overall program, best plan giving.
CASE is the Council for Advancement and Support of Education.
Yes,
right?
Yes. And it also meant a lot because we received an award for collaboration, and it truly was a nice effort between our phone center manager, the annual fund director, my department, and a range of other folks, including the major gift officers, because for many of them, they ended up receiving nice leads. If somebody was assigned and indicated they might consider putting Kent in their will, then the particular advancement officer was encouraged to go to follow up. So we've raised millions of dollars in gifts and pledges through this program over the years.
And clearly a collaboration between three different areas of fundraising.
Yes.
So how did you select the callers who would receive the enhanced training to participate in Request a Bequest?
I depended on the phone center coordinators and the managers to provide me with their very best callers, those that had a great track record in securing gifts, those that had a real passion and joy for the institution, and those who were just great on the phone, particularly for older adults who may not want to talk at certain times during the day or who have hearing issues and so on.
Oh, so just in terms of the person's volume on the phone?
Absolutely.
Is that right? Okay.
Volume, being able to enunciate properly. Our callers went through all kinds of training, including a gerontology expert who came in and talked about issues that older adults face, and things like sundowning, which means that we wanted some of these calls to go out earlier than 6 p.m.
Okay, interesting. So training by a gerontologist.
Yes.
What other training did these specialized callers get?
They had a range of basic plan giving options so that they understood the difference between a simple will bequest and, let's say, a retained income gift.
Okay.
But nothing so technical that they were inhibited or overwhelmed or felt like they didn't want any part of this. And they knew to be able to refer those to me. And oftentimes I was there during the calling.
Okay.
Listening in.
Okay. No, that's
helping out, being around.
But that's a part of call center training.
That's right.
Is listening surreptitiously. Yeah. So they were just opening the conversation. And isn't that what we train a lot of major gift officers to do? I spoke with someone earlier talking about breaking down the silos. I mean, so this is just an extension of what I think is that conversation, breaking down the silos between plan giving and major giving. You're just including students from the annual fund call center.
The important thing about having conversations with people and getting to the core issues is being able to elicit trust for yourself from that person. And whether it's a student caller or a major gift officer, the person on the other end of the phone could be made to feel so comfortable that they want to talk more. And believe it or not, if we're not asking for wills, we're not doing our job, because every other charity is out there doing the same. And in all these years of calling, and in the thousands of people who have been called and followed up on, we have never gotten one case of somebody saying, how dare you ask me that? That is so inappropriate. And most people were thrilled to know, you know what a great idea. I ought to include my alma mater in my will.
Never, not one complaint.
Not one complaint.
Okay, well, you've screened the people who would be part of this, in terms of the prospects, and also highly trained the callers. Mm-hmm. So it's all done very sensitively and appropriately to the right pool. And never a single complaint. Excellent. Follow-up is critical to any solicitation or conversation of this type. What's the follow-up?
This is really, I think, the key factor of this program. You can't do or launch some kind of program without proper follow-up, because nothing is worse than a student coming back to your office saying, wow, somebody just told us they're leaving $50,000 in their will for us, and then we don't call them for a year. I mean, that's critical. So the follow-up has to be done with as much enthusiasm and passion. And what I decided to do was work with our database folks and code these different calls. If somebody was just considering including us in their will, they were coded as a CB, considering a bequest.
Okay.
They got a letter from their student caller thanking them for considering and telling them it was nice to speak with them. And it was actually signed by that student. They also got a letter from me thanking them for considering, and if they requested information, included information, and so on. So there were a number of follow-up procedures and protocol that we were very, very religious on, I should say, in terms of following the way to what the person wanted to receive, all the way to giving them a call maybe 6 months to a year later saying, you know, Mrs. Jones, you had one time thought about including us in your will. Would it be helpful to you if somebody from our office took you to coffee to discuss, or would you like some more information?
Okay, so that is a part of the follow-up, 6 months or a year later.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What's your preference for follow-up to someone who has said in one of these calls, I've already included you in my will, which certainly has happened. Do you then request a documentation or request that they fill out a simple form, or is their word sufficient for you to include them in your recognition society?
Well, after we send out the balloons and all the party favors to their house, we've really simplified it over the years. We do not request a copy of their documentation. However, we do ask that they give us something in writing to specify their instructions, and it can be using our simple form that we offer that helps them, or it could be in the form of an email or a note saying, "Dear Kent State, I'd like my funds to go to the Kent State University Museum," for instance. So with that, we include them as a member of our Legacy Society, and they get all kinds of acknowledgement thereafter. It's also the beginning of another conversation where we can say, depending on how much it comes to fruition at, you could create a permanent endowment, and we can help you with that as well.
And what are you thinking there in terms of permanent endowment? What type of gift are you trying to encourage them to?
This is simply where if there's sufficient funds through their estate gift. Right now, endowments on the Kent campus are $25,000.
Okay.
So in other words, if they're going to leave us at a minimum of $25,000, we would like them to know that they have an opportunity to have a permanent impact at the institution where their area of interest could go on to in perpetuity.
The program is Request a Bequest. It's at Kent State University, and I've been talking to Mindy Aleman, who is the executive director of the Center for Gift and Estate Planning at the university. We've been talking about harnessing your phone center power to increase planned gifts. Mindy Aleman, thank you very much for being a guest.
Thank you, Tony.
It's been a real pleasure. You're listening to Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio coverage of the National Conference on Philanthropic Planning in San Antonio, Texas, 2011.